And I'm Kat.
And we're going to start by giving advice on Unit 1.
Okay, so a positive for Unit 1 was it started off really easy, and it was fun to do. And, it related back to freshman year when we took Natural Science 9. And, because when you do Natural Science 9, you have, the vodcasts, and you had to be focused, which, you have to do in Gen Chem, too, so...
Yeah, and a negative for Unit 1 was the Black Box project, because it was a huge struggle for my group, because, homecoming was coming up, and we had to make sure, the evidence was detailed and everything like that, and my group, was kind of off task, so make sure your group's, good to work with and nice and everything like that.
Yeah, and then some advice for Unit 1 would to always ask questions. You're going to always have to ask questions without all of the units, but, if you don't understand, it would be a good habit to make to ask questions, because then when you're going on to your later units, you'll go up to the teachers and be like, I need help on this, and they will help you.
Yeah. For Unit 2.
Okay, so I have the positives again. So, because we worked with the periodic table freshman year, it was easier to understand it and, memorize the table, even though you didn't have to. It kind of helped for later units.
Yeah, and for some negatives this is where, a lot of the people started getting, on their own pace, so you weren't always aligned with your friends, and it kind of made you feel self-conscious about it, but, don't worry about it, just make sure you're, on your pace and that you're ready on A pace for the test.
Yeah, and then some advice would be that if you're doing the Unit 2 project, you should probably do the song, because as I call it, stick model, you have to get a perfect score on that in order to get a decent grade. Whereas with the song, it's kind of fun to do, and you don't have to sound good to get a good grade. You just have to have the good facts.
Yeah, and positive for Unit 3, which is next, is if you didn't do the Unit 2 project, the Unit 3 project is always a reliable option. It's super fun to do with friends, and it's super, friendly and everything like that. The info sheet's pretty easy and self-explanatory, and my group did it with pom-pom, the puffballs, yeah, with wire, and whenever you made a mistake, everyone just started laughing, and it was just a great time.
Yeah. Also, to go on that, you only have to take or do 3 projects, so don't think you have to take all of the projects.
Yeah.
But some negatives for Unit 3 would be that if you don't understand the unit, you're not going to pass the test. So, because it took me 15 tries to get past this test, and that was after I went back and reviewed it 3 times. So make sure you ask, like I said.
Yeah, and some advice for Unit 3 is you get a whole list of ion on the first vodcast of Unit 3. Make sure you memorize those, because before you can even start Unit 4, you're going to have to get 100% without notes on an ion quiz. So you have to make sure you're memorizing them, or you're going to struggle a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, Unit 4.
Okay, Unit 4. So this was the unit that I struggled in the most. So I'm just going to do the entire thing. So positives was because you have to memorize it, which you do. You cannot use your notes at all for the test. It kind of was drilled into my brain, which helped me later on when I took my exam. But then negatives is that you can't use your notes, so you have to memorize everything. So make sure that you understand it, and ask the teachers, like I said, before you move on. And if you do understand it, just push yourself to keep going and get it all done so that you finish faster. And then advice is to definitely go to your teachers in this unit. Since it's a little different because you can't use your notes, whereas you can use them for all your other ones.
Yeah, and some teachers actually allow you, if you don't do that good on the test, they'll have you, do corrections and help you pass the test. So,
yeah.
The teachers are so understanding. For Unit 5, a positive was that it's basically all math-based. So, if you're really good at math, you're going to do so good in this unit, because that's all it is. It's all math. Some negatives, though, were that 2 of the labs were kind of hard. There were some complications in one of the last labs, and one of the other labs you had to be so accurate in. So take your time, do your math and everything like that. Some advice is make sure you are slowing down and double-checking all of your work. Okay, and for the whole unit of this semester, some of the positives were that you can take the test as much as you need to get an 80%. So try to make sure that you're adding how many days you think you'll need, or build in days almost, to make sure that you are able to take the test on 8 days.
Yeah, and the 80% thing is definitely a good thing, because in other classes, if you take a test and you fail, you can't retake it, which means that it's going to affect your overall grade. Whereas with Gen Chem, it's you're taking the test until you get 80%, and then you keep at your pace.
Yeah, and some negatives were try to miss as few days as possible, especially if you have to take a test, because when you're missing days, you can do the work if it's not a test day, because you have to make sure that you are there in class to take the test.
Yeah. And then also, so there's vocabulary at the end of the notebook that you have to take for each unit. And I didn't do very well with this, but just do it because it doesn't really help, or like it's kind of stupid, but it gives you 2 easy points.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's just something to add to the book.
Yeah, and so some advice that I have is to make sure you keep your whole notebook organized, because when you get to use your notebook on the test, you can easily access everything that you need to make sure it goes faster and everything like that. So thank you.
Bye.